And welcome back to the Entrepreneur Odyssey. I'm your host, Tejneet Selly, and this is a show where we sit down with founders who've actually done the hard yards so you don't have to learn every lesson the painful way. Before we dive into today's episode, a quick shout out to our sponsor, AI Efficacy, who help businesses and customers gain efficiencies and grow their businesses through smart and personalized workflows. Now, on to today's guest. And today's guest started her entrepreneurial journey very, very young by going viral on TikTok for a retail store during the pandemic. And then that turned into a moment of creative instinct and led to a 6-figure social media agency before she even graduated. She racked up over 500 million views for her clients and traveled the world working alongside brands and built a team at Garcia Media Works that does social differently. Rain Garcia, welcome to the Entrepreneur Odyssey.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
We're excited to have you. I mean, you have done, can I start by saying what an amazing job you've done at such a young age? Huge congratulations for that.
Thank you.
So I want to dive into really how it all started. So you said that, at school, I believe you were voted most likely to be internet famous, I believe.
Yes, that was my high school superlative.
That's right. And you actually then started doing it for other people's brands. Could you take me back to that retail store in 2020? What made you point to the TikTok camera at businesses rather than yourself?
Yeah, I think it kind of happened on accident and out of boredom. So when Musically shifted into TikTok and, everyone was just kind of posting on there, having fun, maybe trying to become an influencer themselves or whatnot. And I was doing that, having fun, getting good results, hence kind of why the superlative came into play. And then I graduated in 2020 and then the pandemic hit and I was working at a retail store in my hometown and I was just super bored. It was a family-owned small business. It was really slow. And so I said, can I make a TikTok account? Like I already do it for fun on my phone. Maybe there's something silly that I can do here. And it ended up going viral. They ended up having to make a website because it was, you just come on and shop in person, but it was getting so much traction elsewhere. And then I had that sort of aha moment that it can be a job. And for lack of better words, you can have businesses or people be influencers and you can be the person behind the screen. It doesn't actually have to be yourself, which was a game changer.
Amazing.
I didn't think about that existing.
No, and to be fair, probably before sort of 2020 or maybe a little bit before that, there wasn't really that role. Well, there was, but certainly not to the scale that it then became when TikTok came into the forefront. So I think the fact that you started very early in the TikTok days is a credit to you.
Yeah, it was still embarrassing. So pioneer on that front.
Not embarrassing anymore.
Not embarrassing anymore.
It's very lucrative. It's quite the opposite. So you mentioned in one of our previous conversations that scaling fast without SOPs in place meant 2 steps forward and 1 step back, and that imposter syndrome was a real challenge, which I can understand, with you being so young. What did it actually feel like at 22, 23 years old in rooms full of people who didn't look like you?
I think how I told you too in our previous conversation, my degree was in public relations until I was freelancing all through college. 2020 was my freshman year of college. And I always just assumed I was going to go join the corporate world, work at a PR agency. And then as I was freelancing, I realized that I could start my own agency. But since I hadn't been considering that for the last 4 years, it felt all of a sudden like I was very thrusted into this because I was good at it and I was being successful. But I didn't really feel like I had my bearings, right? So that already putting me in these rooms with people who were older and powerful and all of these things was super intimidating. I feel like I've gotten pretty far past that now, but it was an intense feeling and it kind of made me question if I was prepared enough or if I was good enough. And it took a lot of reflection to kind of realize I wouldn't be in the rooms if I couldn't hold my own. Maybe I look a little bit younger And coming to the realization too, that if you are someone who's older than me and wanting to outsource your social media, you're looking for someone younger, right? They're looking in the room to be like, they look like they understand what's happening. And it was less intimidating, I guess, but it took a lot to kind of get over.
Yeah, I can imagine. But, I'm so glad you persevered and didn't let that imposter syndrome sort of get the better of you, because many do.
Yeah.
But to your point, those that are older and grayer and more experienced in other areas, let's say, they're looking for someone that's more experienced in the social media industry. And you should be very proud of the fact that you were there at the right time. So you've obviously built Garcia Media Works into such a successful platform. How have you managed to scale so well, so quickly?
Yeah. I think saying so well feels more accurate now. In the beginning, I definitely think I scaled. I don't know if I would say so well, but it got done. It got to the point where I was able to do this full time. I had enough revenue, and then it just kept growing. A lot of our clients have come from word of mouth. So we still do cold pitching, outreaching, and we find clients that way, or they find us. But a lot of it has been referrals from clients who are so happy with the work we've done, or, we've fostered a personal relationship and they love the team. So the more you're getting those referrals, the more you kind of have to up your bandwidth. And I wasn't necessarily prepared for that. Like I said, I didn't really know what I was walking into. And so I ended up bringing a couple people on my team as interns. And then from there, full-time employees. We have multiple people on our team. We just brought on another intern. I'm finalizing hiring another person right now. So I'm going to send her the email after that. So I know she's excited. But it was a lot of not knowing how to do that. The boring things of taxes and healthcare and all those things I didn't think about either. And now it was a lot of time looking into coaching programs and free resources and books and reaching out to mentors and asking the questions of, well, how do I do this? How do I do this? I'm scaling, but how do I have boundaries and all the things I didn't really know about? And now we have a pretty good structure in place that, looking back about a year ago, was very scattered, I think, to say the right word.
That's the life of an early stage entrepreneur, right? It is a lot of learning. And I don't think it matters what age you are, right?
Okay.
If you've come from the corporate world all your life, and then, like myself, for example, and then gone into running their own business, trust me, I've had the same learnings, let's say, or I've had to learn the same things. You've done, like I say, you've done really well. You mentioned that you had scaled, but not necessarily well. I'd like to unpack that a bit more, because I think that is how many founders feel, right? They want the business, they then get the business, and then it's like, oh my gosh, now what? Now what do I do? How do I actually service all these clients that are showing interest? How did you manage that?
Yeah. When I had only a few clients, I could kind of wake up in the morning. I think I'm going to make this graphic in Canva, or I saw this TikTok when I was scrolling. Let's do that. Maybe I can make it a reel. And there was no real structure or plan. Like maybe a client would text and say, oh, we have this event happening. Can you post about it? But I was definitely flying by the seat of my pants, which isn't sustainable even if I was a solopreneur. Just at the end of the day, as you continue to grow, but then also having people on my team, I can't just be like, well, be inside my head and know what we need to do and just figure it out. And so figuring out one thing, we have a really good flow now with content calendars. So third week of every Friday, our clients get their calendar for the upcoming month. And that helps them know what's going to go up, what's going to be posted if they want to make any edits, but it helps us to kind of have a roadmap. So everyone logs in the morning. If their clients post perform better in the morning, they post right away or they do it later, but they know exactly what's going up on what platform, copy paste the already approved caption that we know we SEO audited, like it's ready to go. And then we go from there. We also have more, how I mentioned boundaries with scaling, more structured things in place when we onboard clients. So we have an onboarding call, we interview them, we get to know everything about them for their social. They get a packet that's how to work with us. And in there is, our guidelines of our hours of operation, of how to communicate with us. I always say no one ever died over an Instagram story. So we have a section in there about what an emergency actually is. And those were things in the beginning that I would have never have thought to do. And it's all learning lessons, right? Like I didn't think about having client boundaries until I had someone, see how far they could get with pushing those. And I was like, oh, these need to be established from the beginning. Got it.
Right. But, I think it's great that you've put those boundaries in, because I've spoken to many business owners that have been doing it for years and they still can't put those boundaries in because, in their mind, the client always comes first, which it should do, but you can't perform at 100% if you are so overstretched, right? Yeah. So I think, well done to you on that.
And I'm not perfect at it by any means. I have 2 phones now, one's for work, one's for personal, but I'll catch myself, looking and seeing if I got an email or doing things when I'm supposed to be offline. I'm definitely not perfect at it. No. And I love what I do. So that's a hard balance I'm kind of trying to figure out still, of doom scrolling, but working and, maybe not doing that even though it feels fun.
Yeah. And that's, I think that's probably going to be a challenge that you'll always face, because I love what I do as well. And getting that, having that work-life balance can be a challenge at times. Let's go back to your degree, because obviously you did your degree in PR whilst you were also building the agency, which is fantastic. You've said that the most valuable thing was the relationships and not necessarily the curriculum.
Yes.
What do you wish colleges actually taught founders or taught people to be founders?
Yeah. Like I said, I was in the PR program, so I wasn't in a lot of business classes. But from talking to my peers after graduating who did major in business, I was like, okay, here are my questions for curiosity's sake. Did they teach you how to do this? Did they teach you, how to register an LLC? Did they teach you how to manage a team? Did they give you a list of programs to do these things through? And everyone kind of said no. It was more overarching principles of business and things like that. But those are the kind of things that maybe they learned by being in a club like Women in Business or asking mentors. But it was the same kind of experience with my PR degree, where the things that we really needed probably weren't happening as much in the classroom, but I was able to get them from mentors or other things. But I think even having been in the business program, I don't know how prepared I would have been based on asking people some questions.
Yeah, and I think you make a really valid point, because I had a business module in my degree. It didn't teach me anything about HR or finance necessarily, or not to the degree where you need it in running a day-to-day business. So yeah, that's a really interesting point that you make. Let's talk a little bit about AI and how you utilize AI in your business for yourself and for your clients.
So how I talked about the onboarding process, we basically have that fully automated now. I do a lot of work with Claude Code and Copilot. And so if you haven't, or anyone listening hasn't done it, you can give Claude access basically to your whole computer. So I'm getting updates throughout the day. You got this email and you haven't responded, or hey, this person asked for this something by end of day. I see you opened it and then you marked it as unread. I want to flag it on your radar and make sure you saw it, and things that are super helpful like that. And then also for onboarding, right? So we have our questionnaire and then we tailor it per client. So the questions we're going to have for a thought leader are very different than a hospitality business. And so that will go in and they'll tailor it to the client, but then also help with the client research. So when we onboard a client, it's 1 month of onboarding. We have our call, and then we do as much research on them as we can. Every podcast that they've been on, have they written a book? We're reading it or listening to it. One, so we know about them for context for everything, but also so we can emulate their voice when we're posting. And that helps with that. It'll give us tangible lists of, these are the top 5 performing podcasts that they went on. Here's their book to read. This was actually the first podcast ever that they went on in 2017. Listen to this. You can see how their journey changed and things like that to really help make sure nothing slips through a crack, right? We want to be super informed for our clients, but also empathetic. We want to make sure, for example, if they're talking about marriage in something of their content and they haven't told us, oh, I actually went through a horrific divorce in 2008, we will have the nuance that we found, by looking through that to know, okay, when we post this caption, we're going to be super mindful of this thing that maybe they forgot to tell us, but that their audience might or might not know about. And so the automation of onboarding has saved so much time. And that way we can make the content instead of consuming it all.
Yeah, no, that makes so much sense. And then you already mentioned that you're using AI for a lot of the automations in your processes as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, amazing. What advice would you give to clients that's just starting out with social media, right? They're perhaps a newer business, they haven't really played with social media, but they know they need to.
Mm-hmm.
What's your advice to new businesses?
I mean, first off, you said they know they need to. We hear that all the time. It's very common. I know I need to be on social media, but I don't understand it, or I don't like it, or any of those things. And our tagline is, we handle your social media so you can focus on running your business, not creating content, right? So people, besides myself, a lot of times went to be entrepreneurs to run their business. They didn't plan on this having to be a non-negotiable, but it is at this point. If your business is not on social media, as harsh as it sounds, you're asking to fail, or you're asking to miss out on a lot of opportunity. You can be thriving, but I've never met, in my time at least, an entrepreneur that's like, no, I feel fine. I have enough revenue. I don't feel like getting bigger. I don't want to scale. I'm fine. And because that's just not common, and that's what social media can help with. So I think accepting first that you need to be on it. And then second of all, either one of our services is consulting, right? So we'll work with clients who maybe don't have the budget for keeping us on retainer every month, but they need to know what's happening, right? So we do the onboarding process for them. We give them content pillars. We do a deep research on hashtags, all of those things. And we teach them how to do it. And then it's on them to take the initiative, to film the content, to edit, to do all those things. And some business owners realize that they actually love doing it. So that's super fun to see and watch them implement everything. And then if that's not the case and you're not really going to want to work into it, just posting without strategy isn't effective. I know that some people will say, well, I just know I need to be on it. So I post a graphic every couple days and it gets 3 likes and it sits there, but I'm on it. And that's not what we're talking about, right? So understanding also that social media management it's a big investment. We know that, but what you can get on a return on your investment can be huge. So I think that's another thing of people kind of looking and seeing the number, but reflecting on, okay, if this is my only marketing budget, in the grand scheme of things, if I was going to do email campaigns and Google ads and billboards and print media, kind of reminding them that even though this doesn't feel as tangible, it's a very valid form of marketing and worth the investment, that they might think a TV ad or something like that would work for them, because that just wouldn't work anymore as effectively.
Yeah. I mean, and actually my next question was going to be, do you find that different industries work better on, say, LinkedIn versus TikTok versus Instagram?
Yes. I mean, certain platforms just resonate for people and businesses. And that can be for a couple different reasons. For example, TikTok is pretty strict on alcohol promotion, so hospitality, and it's very generated on what they flag as violating the guidelines, or promoting substance abuse is what I think they market it as. But YouTube and Instagram are a lot more lax with that. So for clients that are in, the hospitality or spirit space, it's easier on there. LinkedIn can really help to establish authority. So going on there, showing your personality, which kind of helps break through that wall of very corporate jargon text posts. We tell our clients, if it's relevant enough, throw a selfie in there, a tasteful one, and, and share stuff about yourself from your voice. We write it. But that kind of helps break through, because it's not what the same posts people are seeing when they're scrolling through LinkedIn. But every client is different, Substack, Blue Sky, X. It depends on where their audience is at and who their target demo is. And that's something that we usually find out around month 2 or 3. And we can kind of see the patterns of, you're getting a lot more traction over here than you are over here. But actually, the analytics is on Instagram, it's women over 30. And on TikTok, it's half and half, under 25. And you're trying to reach this audience. So even though it's smaller, let's work on fostering that community. a little more than the other one.
Okay, nice. So in essence, for the first couple of months, you're kind of learning what's working for that brand and then tweaking it as needed going forward.
Yeah, they get their strategy. And then at the end of each month, they get an analytics report. So we go through and we pull all the numbers and then we explain to them what the numbers mean. So they feel like they know what's going on. This number means this. We're actually prioritizing, this analytics. So saves over this. We've noticed that this isn't working. Here's the action step right away that we're going to take to tweak the strategy a little bit. And so we follow that pattern, but we also keep them in the loop if they think it's interesting, and also so they know that their investment is getting them somewhere.
What makes Garcia Media Works stand out from the crowd, would you say?
I think there's a lot of different things. One of them being that we are very numbers driven and vocal about the numbers. So if you go on our Instagram, it's just Garcia Media Works. Our pinned posts are client testimonials. So that's something that's huge just in general. Our clients like us enough to brag about us and refer us. So that's a big selling point right there. But also the third pin post will be screenshots of the analytics reports from our clients for the past month. So you'll go on there and you'll see, 1 million views on Instagram for this client and 700,000 on TikTok and we're very vocal about the numbers and numbers that move the needle, right? So not just vanity metrics that don't feel like they're actually doing anything or getting our clients revenue. I always use the example of if you're a bar in San Diego and your post is going viral in Brooklyn, New York, people are not, most likely, hopping on a flight to come to your bar to spend money. It's cool that the post got a high number, but that did nothing. And that's not that impressive to me. It's more getting our clients what they actually want. And so we're vocal with those numbers and our results, and we're honest with our clients. I've seen other agencies that talk to their clients because a lot of time with clients, they don't know what they're looking for. They know they need to be on social media. What does working with an agency that's making you successful actually look like? And some agencies will be like, we got 900,000 views on Instagram. That is so amazing. We're thriving. We're winning. You're getting. But then my question is, okay, have you gotten any more inquiries? Have you, hopped on potential client calls? What do your emails look like? What do your DMs look like? What does your bank account look like? Are you invoicing new people? Like, what is the result of that? And I don't think a lot of clients know to ask that question because some agencies will just take the money and define success how they want. And we always are vocal about having the client's best interest at heart. We're very honest with them. And I think that's an important thing to foster a working relationship, but also as an ethical business owner, we want them to thrive as much as we want to thrive.
I love that. That's you're holding integrity at the heart of what you do because again, as many of us founders know that we need to be on social media. To your point, we want to be on social media in order to generate more qualified inquiries, right?
Exactly.
That hopefully turn into business. So I think that's a really important point to note to anyone listening. Let's talk about a slight flip side of AI and clients. So it kind of feeds into the conversation we're having. You've mentioned that clients send you ChatGPT captions that miss the brand voice and having to navigate that conversation. How do you handle the founder or the brand owners who are kind of half bought into AI but using it badly?
I think it's finding the balance of validating the effort. I appreciate this so much. Thank you so much for sending this over. This introduction point I can tell is what you actually wrote. So I think that's important that you want that included. We'll take that to note. But if they send over a caption that has 17 hashtags at the bottom that are all capitalized the way ChatGPT does, Instagram only lets you use 5. So ChatGPT does not recognize that. You can tell it a billion times. You're getting about 15 hashtags that also are just bad. And so sometimes it's just taking it. Thank you so much. We'll look over this and add where we feel fit into the calendar and then kind of going from there. Or it's the conversations of, we had this the other day. Hey, I saw you posted these things on your Instagram story. Did you pull those from Claude? And they were like, oh yeah, Claude made those. And I was like, okay. From a visual standpoint, there was way too much text and it was really small. Also, I noticed, because this is a newer client that we're bringing on, the fonts actually weren't the ones that were in your brand kit that you sent over. As a reminder, if you message us within 24 hours, as long as it's a work week, we will make that for you. We'll go into Canva, we'll keep your brand colors and everything to where it's consistent, but we'll also tweak it to the psychology of how people watch Instagram stories, right? or things like that. And so sometimes we'll get lists of, okay, I typed into chat these 15 ideas and I want to film them. And it's acknowledging the effort. And sometimes the ideas aren't bad, but also teaching them, hey, here are a couple ways that you can put this into your program. So if they're using Claude, I've sent over briefs to clients and said, paste this file into your Claude so at least it knows more about you. Because I've noticed that they've just gone on and been like, my name's so-and-so, I do so-and-so, write me a caption for blank. And they don't know any of your nuance, right? I'm like, okay, I've pasted passages from your book or, these clips from your website, these things. And then it can actually be a little more organic and start to sound like them. And so if they are going to insist on doing that, which is fine, I love the initiative and it's way better than having a client who's not invested, but teaching them to make it easier for them to not waste their time and to not waste mine, right? Like, so the things that they're sending me are of higher value once they kind of know how to use the AI that they want to use.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I always say to customers as well, it's about how you're using AI. AI can be an amazing tool if used correctly. So is there a particular industry that Garcia Media Works kind of works best for, would you say?
Let me think on that. I don't think so. We always say that there's no niche or no industry too niche or small. And I think going back to what I said about the honesty with clients and what sets us apart is the deep understanding of the algorithm and that onboarding process, right? So we have clients in hospitality. I'm actually in New York right now for a hospitality convention. And then we have clients in executive leadership who work with Fortune 500 leaders and really huge companies. And then we have, dive bars and healthcare practitioners and skincare and everything in between that doesn't seem like one agency would be able to cover. But it's understanding the algorithm, understanding a target audience, which is what we get in the onboarding, and then doing the research on that industry. So if we know you want to reach women between this age and this age of this demographic, we already know how the algorithm works. We can tailor those SEO captions to any niche, right? So people don't realize, you can have this little tidbit. When you're putting text on screen on Instagram or Shorts or TikTok, that text on screen counts for your SEO. So if you are not using the word, if you're using, I'm just going to think for a bar, right? San Diego, go to this bar. If you just put, go to this bar, it's not going to algorithmically put it on the people you want. So if you want to put it there and in the captions and in the hashtags. And so once we understood that for one client, we can do that for all clients, and understanding how different consumers in those industries act online. So someone that's a target demographic for a skincare company that's higher price point is going to be on social media differently than a 21-year-old going to a dive bar, right? So how do they use social media, understanding that, and then we can apply that for every client. It's doing the work and understanding and knowing that everything is not a one size fits all. I see other agencies do that. They'll take clients that are in different industries and you can see it's like the copy paste formula strategy. Like maybe they're all doing trends, and like some of our clients, we don't touch trending content at all. It just doesn't work for them. It, kind of ruins their authority. Maybe it's fun, but it's not who they're trying to reach. And other agencies, you can see they copy paste kind of their game plan, and it doesn't work for half of their clients because it's only supposed to work for the other half.
Right. Yeah. I like that. You're using a very tailored approach, which is, what you'd expect as a customer, really. And then, I had another question and it's literally escaped me. I'll have to come back to it.
No worries.
But I want to ask you a big question about Garcia Media Works, because you've done so incredibly well in such a very short space of time. What's your vision for your business in, say, the next sort of 2, 3, 5 years?
I think continuing to scale, continuing to grow, getting the team be, very large, very sustainable. One shorter term goal is to have the agency fully be able to run without me. I love this and I will probably always do this and have, my hands in the pots. Like I'm not going anywhere with it. But, if I decide to eventually like have a family, being able to make sure that I can take like proper maternity leave and do those things. You see some, especially female founders, talking about either that they were able to do it all, and then some are very vocal that you have to pick and choose. There's a choice and there's priorities, and however any woman chooses to do that is perfect for her. And so making sure that I find a way to do that for myself that works, I think is important. And then also expanding into other industries. Like I said, I'm in New York for a convention, and I think just the psychology of marketing and off social media is so fascinating. So finding other ways to grow the agency and maybe, sub companies that work together. So we do podcast editing and we work with podcast clients. So maybe that's opening a studio that we rent out and then we also, help edit, or bigger things where we acquire another agency, or maybe this agency gets acquired and I go to do the next thing. I follow so many entrepreneurs, both male and female, that I look up to that have scaled and, made multiple 7-figure businesses. And that's where I want to be at. So I have them as my expanders and I will get to that point. It's just the steps until then.
Amazing. I love the ambition. I absolutely love it. Rain, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. It's been an absolute pleasure. Can you absolutely. Can you let the viewers and the listeners know how to get in touch with you and how to get in touch with your agency should they need help?
Yeah. So like I said, our Instagram is Garcia Media Works. You can go on there, see some of our analytics for the past months. Our website is just garciamediaworks.com. We have a contact form at the top. Every introduction call is with me. You get full access to me. We do 30-minute complimentary introductions where we understand your business, what our services could offer you. And like I said, we are an agency with integrity. So if we think that we are going to be out of your price point or that you might benefit from a different service, we will let you know that. Like maybe consulting will work better for you, or maybe you need to do this thing before it's time to invest in social, and we can just have a conversation. I love social media so much and I think it's so fun. So getting other people and other business owners fired up ideally, but not dreading it is a really cool part of the process. So you can send us a DM, you can fill out the contact form, and we can hop on Zoom or a call and get to know each other and talk about how to grow your business.
Fantastic. And I don't know about anybody else listening, but I'm fired up now to make sure that my socials are up to scratch, and I'll probably be working with you, Ray, to help me.
Perfect.
So look, again, for anyone listening who wants to grow their social media, I think I would really encourage you to go to Garcia Media Works. Excuse me, my tongue was tripping over itself.
It was too excited.
It was too excited. That's the thing. I'm now super, super pumped to get started. And a final thank you to our sponsors, AI Efficacy. If today's conversation got you thinking about how to build smarter systems behind your business, head to aiefficacy.com and book a discovery call. So that's a wrap for today. Thank you again, Rain, for being on the show. You've done such an incredible job in such a short time. Everyone listening, thank you. Please do subscribe to wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, keep building.